Developing a game by yourself can feel quite haphazard. One day, you're researching new ways to light your game so it doesn't look like a Roblox minigame. And the next, you're photographing every inch of your body to use as a texture material for your homeless man character model. It can be quite the stressful job, and like getting a little in over your head at a job that you got by lying on your resume, it can sometimes feel like you have no idea what you are doing. Which is why I am here to ease some of that tension by showing you I have no idea what I'm doing either, by giving you a little window into the development of my Goblin Stuck in Los Angeles simulator. It has been some time since I have made a video logging my progress on my Goblin game, so many of you may not be familiar with All Goblin. To sum it up, All Goblin is a scuffed attempt at a goblin-centered role-playing game where you explore a Souls-inspired interconnected world where your only means of defense is a semi-automatic slingshot. I made this game in Unity in a bit of a delirious haze, and it's a little rough around the edges and pretty short, which isn't as much of an issue when you're releasing a game with essentially zero marketing and no player base. However, thanks to my recent exposure on YouTube, as well as a community of players that are extremely generous and sometimes a little concerning, more attention has been given to the game than initially anticipated. So I think it's about time we enter the proverbial game development trenches once again and start gobbing it a little bit. It should be pretty easy to add new content.
Let's just take a look at the files here. Nope, never mind. Ooh, Mrs. Unity, those files nice.
So one of the unpaid interns at Proper Goblin headquarters was placed in charge of supervising the production of All Goblin so management and I could focus on our mental health. In that time, he has effectively eviscerated any ability to add new content to this game. The files are completely unorganized, the code is abysmally designed, and everything in it is named variations of memes from 2016. Character models range from passable to criminally negligent, and enemies appear effectively lobotomized. We're going to have to do some serious renovations before work can continue. Our mission? Overhaul and streamline this Goblin game and prepare it for more content additions in the future. So let's hop right in. At the heart of any good video game is the player. As a progressive company with a diverse group of unpaid interns, it seems quite offensive for this game to only contain goblin males. Therefore, we will be adding the ability to choose your goblin's gender. To do this, however, required a complete redesign of the player model. Because the intern messed up the shape keys, somehow every shape key increased the buffness of the entire model, resulting in a disproportionate amount of buff, oiled up goblins. So each shape key would need to be completely remade from scratch. To do this, I simply took the old player model and used an ancient Scandinavian technique known as Topology to fashion our goblin a new identity. Now, to add female goblins might sound like a difficult task. The most effective solution would probably be to swap the player model entirely for a female version, but we don't have time for that. So instead, I just added another shape key that roughly altered the base goblin model to approximate what I imagine a female looks like. With that done, the player now has much more control over customizing their goblin. We are now one step closer to the Souls-like genre's most important feature of being able to generate creatures abandoned by God. This marks the third time the player has been redesigned, and I'll fucking do it again. Now it was time to do something about the combat. At times, the combat could range from passably inadequate to immersion breaking, with things like the guards erratically firing away from the player at some sort of unknown presence in the corner, or enemies being omnipotent and killing you through psychic barrages. To begin working on anything, we would need to do something about the enemy code infrastructure. And by do something, I mean we would need enemy code infrastructure, because at the moment, each enemy uses a completely different script. This will be a fantastic chance to create a robust, modular, highly customizable AI system that will definitely be used to its fullest potential. I spent the next 72 hours hyper-focused on playing some of my favorite video games, studying how the AI worked on a technical and spiritual level, stopping for only the absolute essentials. I learned the ins and outs of enemy design. I became AI, and began following what someone like me would consider high-level coding tutorials. And after multiple attempts at making intricate state machine systems, I realized I am overcomplicating things. Almost every blend file in my game consists of objects named cube 0 to 100. I'm in over my head as it is. The other day, I tried adding volumetric lights, and after building, the game just didn't start anymore. I need to be making things as simple as possible for myself. With that in mind, I took all the enemy code and tried to cram it into a design philosophy where it would just be easier to keep track of and add new movement or attacks, resulting in this very simple selection system where the enemy state is checked and then some custom actions for each character are decided on. It's not clean because I took my old code and shuffled it around a little bit, like I used to do with my great-grandfather's medication before he mysteriously passed away. So it doesn't look very nice. But it works, and I'm scared to touch it. With that, AI also now used a standardized detection system and have a team system as well, meaning they can fight each other and I can break into the NPC battle market on YouTube. In some of my favorite games, enemies can throw grenades, and in some cases, you can throw them back, giving you a satisfying feeling of karmic justice, similar to the part in the Midwest Safety video where they finally just arrest the crack addict who's been doing jujitsu the entire time. I saw an opportunity for this with the slingshot mechanic, so now guards can hurl Carapace patented grenades at you, and you can throw them back. I believe I'm starting to get a better grasp on how to use game mechanics to my advantage. Designing a system is one thing, but implementing it in interesting ways is an entirely new challenge, and it makes my head hurt. It's really easy to fall into the trap of just placing an item on the ground and hoping that it's useful to the player. As I've been improving the game, I've tried to continue to give the slingshot more purpose besides blunt force trauma. For example, the other night I woke up in a blind panic that could only be fixed by redesigning the door buttons that still have the default Blender texture. And while doing so, I thought it would be fun for the player to be able to open them by removing a comically large battery powering the door, giving them an item if they figured out that they can pick up more than just bricks yet. Much of the geometry in the game appears to have been made by the homeless man we hired recently as an environmental artist, and at the risk of hurting his feelings and invoking his wrath, we will be updating some of these areas. One of my favorite areas he designed was the upper cliff, which is just the starting area scaled up and duplicated a couple of times. I made a new model for the cliff and learned a bit about shaders to make a dynamic texture based on the incline of the geometry, so it looked more like an actual landmass and less like the Google search result for green cylinder. I updated a few different areas in the game, most notably this laboratory section, which was probably the most abrasive area in the game to the senses. Now, when I last talked about my big beautiful goblin game, in the video I said that I'd updated this area to look better. This was a complete lie. Unless I actually believed adding a toilet to this area counted as making it look better, I was coping.
And the science wing looked really bad, so I redid the entire place to have more consistency and added a toilet. What the fuck was I talking about?
I apparently felt guilty for this lie, because I soon found myself redesigning this area in its entirety with a completely new layout and plans to add a new boss fight. It took some time, but it's probably some work I'm most proud of. I'm particularly proud of the doors, in which I did not copy the doors from Halo 2. By the way, I didn't rename any of the files, and no, I won't change it, because when I do, Unity removes the material attached to the object and there's about 57 Bezier curves I'd have to reapply textures to. Besides, we need the time saved from not renaming any files to design the boss fight. I went with a big toad because there are already toads in the game and I wanted to be tonally consistent, and not because that way I didn't have to make a new model. To prove it, I went ahead and remade the entire model anyway, because I suffer from something my therapist calls intense self-loathing. But what does she know? And with that, we have more than one boss fight in the game. Watch out, From Software, there's a new foot fetishist in town, and his favorite Souls game is the second one. But right now, this boss fight is not very fun. You might even call it wildly unimpressive, if you're a traitor to the Goblin regime. The Goblin Intern playtesting division described the average boss attempt as thus: spend 2 to 3 minutes gathering supplies for the boss fight, jump down and unload all of your ammo to minimal effect, proceed to be brutally violated by Big Ass Toad's impressively sized tongue, break the testing center's computer monitor, and be sent to Goblin Intern reconditioning. As fun as it is to watch these interns do this, I unfortunately can't release the game in this state. The Proper Goblin think tank in contact with the Vatican believes that decreasing the frustration with managing items is the solution. Attempt number 1 was to make picking up items in the middle of a fight more viable, and less like trying to do your taxes while a wild chimpanzee rips your face off. I experimented with an inventory system where you can pick up items within a certain radius around you. However, this was ass, and it still didn't fix the issue of having to prep heavily for encounters, and in fact made it even more like doing your taxes while a wild chimpanzee rips your face off. Luckily, much like many situations in life, the best solution is usually the easiest one. By simply adding the ability to pick up items in close approximation to the center of the screen, instead of requiring professional level marksmanship, it is now significantly easier to pick up items, and my interns can stop breaking my shit. Next, this room would need to be spruced up a little bit. I wanted to change the preparing for 10 minutes only to be instantly victimized into a more interesting and thought-provoking encounter. The idea was born to have multiple things in the room you could use to your advantage instead of relying mainly on what you bring in with you. So now there's a health station and multiple items you can choose from. So someone dropping down without knowing what to expect has some options if they think quickly. This has the effect of making the boss fight a little too easy if you know what you're doing, so now the room also begins filling with toxic amounts of red 40 that will kill you over time if you don't get to higher ground. I think this makes it a bit more interesting than just sexual deviant reptilian in empty room, and I'll be trying to find more opportunities for that in the future. The dynamic part, not the reptilian. Now that the game has more than one boss fight, the method of the boss just being back alive every time you play doesn't really work. So, inspired by Dark Souls 2, boss fights are now permanently dead, but can be revived through Dark Goblin magic. Further improvements to All Goblin included a new death screen, bugs like the elevator clipping and wide spear being patched, and graphic settings.
Whoa, hang on there. How'd you do it?
With these changes, I felt that All Goblin had achieved improvement worthy of release to its many users. After playing through the game multiple times, testing and retesting everything, it was time to build the game and publish the update to Steam. As I sat back in my chair ready to relax, I began receiving some strange messages in my Discord server. This normally wouldn't be of note, as every message in that server makes me want to voluntarily blind myself. However, these were not the cruel and unusual comments I was used to.
Hey guys, What's up Goblin fam? It seems Proper Goblin has accidentally pushed dev mode All Goblin. Let's open up this log file. I don't know what the fuck.
No shit, I gotta record this. I gotta record
right
the
now.
new
I'm
Goblin
scrolling
update. Oh no!
As you can see, okay, these bricks are working. Oh!
Holy shit, it's Christmas!
What's in the presents? Oh my god, okay, if you pick up...
Okay.
Wait, this is crazy! This could be crazy for speedrunning tech, these still have collision! There's words on the door. Am I immortal? Okay, I guess I'm immortal.
You get a stable 60?
Absolutely not.
I'm getting a stable 60. Is it Delta Time related?
I don't... That's what I'm...
In my haste to be done with this update, it would seem I failed to check if the game actually worked once I had built it. When testing in the editor, the game functioned about as well as it normally could, but after building it, it dropped the charade and became a completely dysfunctional mess. Enemies held a 1,000-yard stare, damage as a concept was erased from reality, and the game itself seems to have taken on a mind of its own. I had no idea what was going on, and I had just directly uploaded it to Steam. To make matters worse, the developer build button had also been checkmarked, so every error the game could think of was being involuntarily thrown directly at the player in a funny little window on their screen at all times. Ultimately, this wasn't as big a deal as the other problems and doesn't change much about the game. However, it does have the added consequence of making this build instantly more interesting to those who get a hold of it.
You know what we're gonna do?
I'm gonna
hit file, save. We're saving this to my desktop. We're gonna upload this in the Discord.
While this was a simple fix, the other issues were not. I had essentially no idea why the game worked perfectly fine in the editor, but lost it all once built. I eventually narrowed it down to a couple of problems. At some point in development, I had broken down the game into multiple chunks and used a new method of building nav meshes so I could individually edit areas instead of rebaking the entire scene every time I wanted to change something. For some reason, after building, these nav meshes would dissipate completely, causing all enemies to stand perfectly still for eternity. At the same time, every health-related script in the game would stop working, being the source of most of the null reference exceptions seen in the error console, causing the immortal player and enemy glitches, and whatever the fuck is happening here. I fixed the nav meshes in a blind panic by adding some kind of nav mesh loading script. Don't ask me what it does. As for the other errors, I basically spent an hour combing through the many null reference errors and manually assigning things that seemed perfectly fine in the editor, but got a bit uppity once it turned 18 and got kicked out of the house into the real world. Eventually, all errors were patched and a proper build was uploaded to Steam. Things could have been a lot worse, but words cannot express the fear that is instilled in you after giving access to a broken developer build of your game to a group of players whose primary mode of communication is similar to ancient Aztec sacrificial chanting. About a year ago, one of them ran a cheated speedrunning competition, where players would compete to see who could hack the game to reach the ending cutscene, with the time spent hacking counted towards the speedrun time. After the first few submissions, they just began re-uploading each other's videos, sped up, and screaming obscenities at the top of their lungs.
You see, it's very complex what I'm doing here, what I'm cooking up. Pepper mushroom! I beat you, laddie! You can't win! I'm better than you! Laddies! I win!
These people are unhinged, and giving them access to anything they aren't supposed to have is a new kind of existential dread. In conclusion, we have successfully upgraded this game from kinda stinky to less stinky, gotten it ready for future updates, and destroyed any and all faith that we are professional game developers. All in all, not my worst performance. If you would like to support the Goblin regime, we now offer channel memberships, or you can play my game and submit unhinged suggestions in the Discord that will likely be ignored. Thank you to our first channel members, and thank you for watching.